welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing an album review, but of an album which was unreleased like at the time and has quite an interesting backstory. I'm going to be talking about Paul McCartney's Cold Cuts album. A big part of this video, like the credits, have to go to that Vinyl Lad. Like he posts like on Instagram, and like he done a lot of like the research like for like this video. Like a big thank you to him. Definitely do go and follow his Instagram page, and like he will also give his thoughts on the songs like at like the end like of the video like in writing. We'll just like I said, it'll just follow like the usual format. I'll just give a bit of background information, then I'll show you the vinyl copy of it, what I have here, and then I will go through each of the album's tracks. So generally speaking, Cold Cuts is an unreleased album of outtakes by Paul McCartney. It was originally planned to come out in 1975, and like McCartney revisited the project several times over the years until it was abandoned permanently in the late 80s. Now the original idea for the album came in 1974, like as a quick way to follow up Band on the Run, which was released at the tail end of 1973. Like that was a very successful album, and there was the opportunity for a quick follow up. So the idea was for Wings to kind of revise and revisit some unreleased material from previous albums, including Ram and Red Rose Speedway, as well as recording some new songs. These took place in Nashville in 1974, the same sessions which seen them record Sally G and Junior's Farm. And I guess the reason why this one didn't come out in 74 was because I think there was a lot of big anticipation for the follow-up to Band on the Run, and I think kind of releasing an odds and ends sort of album at that time of arguably subpar material might have not been a wise career move for Paul McCartney. It was put on hold for the time being. And then it reared its head again in 1978, which was the same year that this was released, Wings' Greatest, and then the idea came up to kind of combine a greatest hits album as well as sort of a collection of outtakes and B-sides. So this was to be called Hot Hits Cold Cuts. However, only the greatest hits portion came out as Wings' Greatest. I'm not sure what happened with the other the other disc. I think it was maybe the record company didn't think they could market it well. I said, it only came out as Wings' Greatest. The project was next worked on in the dying days of Wings, so this was following the release of McCartney 2 and Paul's Japan drug bust. These were among the final sessions undertaken by the final Wings lineup. So these sessions they've done demos of songs for Tug of War and Pipes of Peace, and I think even a couple were ended up on Broad Street, as well as overdubbing onto some of the Cold Cut songs. So things I think A Love for You, Lon Stuber, overdub some guitar, and various other ones as well. Again, this was set for release in the early part of 1981. However, the unfortunate death of John Lennon at the end of 1980 again put hold on that, McCartney not wanting to release any new music at least in the short term. So we fast forward another few years to 1986, and McCartney brings in producer and arranger Richard Niles. As far as I'm aware, they were gonna try and work on the songs, but I think the only thing what's been released from that sort of collaboration was the orchestral version of Blue Sway, which was a McCartney 2 outtake. That sounds great. That was released on the McCartney 2 Archive edition. And then finally, the following year, 1987, McCartney works alongside the producers Chris Thomas and Bill Price, and they sort of mix the album. However, they're not happy with it, and instead, once again, kind of history repeating itself, a greatest hits is released. This one is All the Best. However, what also happened in '87 was this bootleg version of it came out on the Club Sandwich label. Now, Club Sandwich is the, I believe, the official fan club, like, of, like, Paul McCartney, like, I'm not sure, like, if it's, like, the official one, like, or if it's, that maybe, like, an unofficial one, like, but, like, it's quite, it was certainly one of, like, the main ones out there, and, like, they, released, like, this, like, bootleg of, like, what I believe, like, was going to be, like, the album, like, as it was, like, in 1987, and, like, kind of, like, once, like, this was out there, like, and fans had heard it, there was kind of, like, little point, like, in, like, releasing the album, like, officially, so it was then, cancelled permanently. Now, coming right up today, in a 2019 You Gave Me the Answer blog post, Paul was asked, like, if he would release the Cold Cuts album, and his response that it was quite interesting. He was saying that he was more focused on the archive editions, and, like, in fairness, like, on every archive edition what's been out there, like, sort of, like, they do feature, like, the relevant tracks, like, what were originally going to be on Cold Cuts. So, like, one day, like, when all the archives are done, you will have, like, all these songs, like, but, like, they will be scattered about, like, on different releases. However, like, he also didn't rule out releasing it, like, in, like, the future as well. So it is kind of, like, up in the air still. So I will just show you the bootleg copy, what I have of it here. So yeah, like I said, this is on the Club Sandwich label. Came out, I think, 87 or maybe 88. Like, I'm not too sure. Like, but, like, it was certainly late 80s. This was issued and, like, sort of, like, out there for the fans to get. Very basic packaging, like, as you would expect, like, from a bootleg, just on black vinyl, and it's the Club Sandwich label there, and Cold Cuts. Okay, so I will now go through the track listing of this version. Now, I am aware that, like, there were other songs considered for the project, like, like, through, like, the different albums, like, iterations, like, whether this was, it seems like the final track list, like, the one, like, what Paul had sort of settled on before the project, like, was pulled, so I will just be looking at the 12 songs, which make up this version of it. Okay, so we kick things off with a song called A Love For You, which is a really fun song, I think. It's got a kind of Buddy Holly, kind of rockabilly sort of feel. This one was originally recorded in the Ram sessions and then fleshed out in 1980 with the Last Wings lineup. It since has featured in a film called The In-Laws and was released on the Ram Archive edition. Now, my thoughts on the song, yeah, I think it's a fun song. I think it would have been a half-decent addition to Ram. It probably wouldn't have been one of the standout tracks on there, but it's still a good song, though. Still a lot better than many of the stuff Wings put on the Wildlife album, like, I will say that. It maybe goes on a little bit towards the end. They kind of, like, the runtime of this, like, is about 4 to 5 minutes, so I do think it goes on a little bit, like, and also the sound quality, like, isn't great, like, on, like, this bootleg version, like, whether, like, it has been improved, like, on the remastered archive one. So yeah, I Love You, a really good song, and we'll give that one an 8 out of 10. It's my Carnival, it's a lovely day. Okay, and then we get, for me, one of the worst McCartney songs. I'm sure I'd done a couple of months back a top 10 least favourite McCartney songs, and I'm fairly sure this song was in the list. It is My Carnival, and this is just a song which I just don't like. Like, I will say that it was recorded during the Nashville sessions in 1974, and it's got this kind of New Orleansy sort of, like, carnival sort of feel to it. I mean, like, it was not released, like, at the time. I think perhaps, like, sort of, like, especially recorded for a kind of Cold Cuts sort of project, and you can really tell it's just a silly song. It's repetitive. It would eventually though come out as the B-side to the 1985 single Spice Like Us, as well as feature on the Venus and Mars Archive edition. But yeah, it's just not a song I rate at all. So yeah, My Carnival would get a 3 out of 10. And at the bottom of the water spout. The next track up is called Water Spout, which is an outtake from the London Town album. This is a perfectly catchy McCartney song. It's got kind of his sort of typical sort of, like, nonsensical style lyrics on it, but it is a great melody, though, really great melody, and it's got this kind of Caribbean style backing on it as well. Now, this song does have quite an interesting history, like a lot of these tracks do, because it was originally, like I said, like a London Town outtake, but McCartney was seriously considering putting it on All the Best, like, as like a kind of like an exclusive track. like for the album, and it does feature, like I have seen like sort of like mock-ups like off like the album. Like I tried to find it recently, like, but like I couldn't actually like sort of find it again. Like, but they did have like a little cartoon like image like for like Water Spout done, and like it was featured like on like the track list like as well. But like I said, pulled like at like the last minute from All the Best, and I maybe can understand that. I mean, it's certainly not one of McCartney's best songs, but it is a good unreleased track though, and definitely will be a good addition to the London Town archive version whenever that's released.
You better give me some time for this heart of mine, cause I just can't take it all.
Next track up is called Mama's Little Girl, which is a pleasant acoustic song. It's kind of got kind of like a country kind of feel to it. It is that very sort of typical early McCartney, sort of like McCartney 1, sort of Ram sort of feel, where it's very sort of like stripped back kind of thing. But it's a really nice melody. I mean, yeah, it's the kind of song which McCartney can just write like in like his sleep. Now, this is a song which was originally going to be on Red Rose Speedway. It was released on this, which is the kind of double vinyl version of it, like as the album was originally intended. So yeah, this is like a Red Rose Speedway outtake, and then it was officially released as the B-side to Put It There. So yeah, a really nice song that though, and I would give it a 8 out of 10. Next track up is Night Out, which is another Red Rose Speedway archive, and was the original. It was going to be the original opening track to the double album version of it, and I think that's a good song. But it's not great though. It's mostly instrumental. It's kind of a rocker, but like this version is slightly different. It features a bit more vocals on it. I think those must have been done in the 1980 sessions, like for like the album, and this version, the version like on here, like it's still not been officially released, because like the one on the double Red Rose Speedway is like mostly, like I said, like mostly like instrumental. It's an okay song. I mean, like the vocals do help it a little bit. I do prefer this version of it than like the original one, like from like the double Red Rose Speedway. I just think they make it a bit more engaging, a little bit more interesting, but it's still not a brilliant song though. And yeah, I would still give it a 6 out of 10.
Welcome to the Robbers Ball, gentlemen and ladies, all are welcome to the...
Next track up, which closes the first side of the album, is called Robber's Ball, which is a quirky little number, this one here. I believe it was recorded during the Back to the Egg sessions, but it, to me, sounds a lot more like a McCartney 2 outtake, because it's very, wacky kind of song. It's kind of got like a lot of synths on it and stuff. It's a very sort of, it's got a lot of playfulness like to like the track, when McCartney putting on like all like these funny voices and that. I mean, it certainly wouldn't have fitted on any Wings album, or like even McCartney 2. I think it would have been a bit of like a blot like on there. But like it's an okay outtake. It's nothing more, nothing less. I would just give it a 5 out of 10 there for Robber's Ball.
I've been there to tell you.
Next track up, opening side 2, is called Cage. Now this is for me the real hidden gem on the album. It's still not been released, but I think it is the best song, like by far. It was recorded during, again, the Back to the Egg sessions, and it was originally going to be on the album. However, they replaced it with, for me, the much inferior Baby's Request. I just don't see why like they put that song on. It just doesn't fit with the album at all. Whereas this has kind of got that sort of like that new wavy sort of feel, like what they were going for, like on that album. Interesting little facts like which you didn't know, like the main riff like of the song is basically the chords C, A, G and E, so it's of course spelling out cage there, so that's quite interesting. Plus I just love the construction of this song, the two distinct sections of it. You've kind of got like the upbeat and the upbeat more like rocky section, which kind of reminds me a bit like of like the Cure's song The Love Cats, like of course I mean they're completely different songs, like, but it's just like sort of like the vibe like of it, like sort of like with like the kind of like it's just the way like the guitars are played, like the drums, so like the way they interact with each other, like which like reminded me like of that song. Plus then you've got the kind of completely different section, like the I've Been Sent to Tell You bit. Like, it's a bit slower, but you've got some great harmonies on it. Again, really one of like the last examples like of like the fantastic Wings harmonies. As I said, the song is still officially unreleased, but I do think it will get a place on the Back to the Egg archive, like again, like as and when like that comes along. Because yeah, I do think this is really one of the hidden gems like off the McCartney catalogue.
Happening time and time again.
Next track is also really good. It's called Did We Meet Somewhere Before, which is a lovely ballad, this one. Again, I think this is from the London Town sessions. However, it wasn't meant for the album. It was originally going to be the theme song for a film, a Warren Beatty film called Heaven Can Wait. However, like, it was rejected, like, as that, like, for, like, whatever reason. And a snippet of the song was used in a 1979 film called Rock and Roll High School. But apart from that, it still remains officially unreleased. The song is great though, it's got a really lovely melody on it, kind of like longing, kind of like romantic lyrics on it, plus a great vocal from Paul. My only complaint with it is it maybe feels like it goes on a little bit too long, because they kind of like, they start to like repeat verses and stuff like as it goes on. I think this song could have really done like with a bridge, like just sort of like spice up the song and just keep it like that, and like just keep like that engagement level like running through it. But it's still a lovely track though for the most part. So I would give that one an 8 out of 10.
Hey, Dizzle, I want you back. Dizzle, I want you back.
Next track up is another little acoustic song, this one called Hey Dizzle, and it's a song which McCartney has, I think must have been in like the early 70s, like when he's just like living like on like the farm and that. Song he's worked on like over the years. It was originally I think recorded during the Ram sessions, and then they worked on it again in Nashville in '74, and like yeah, it's just a simplistic acoustic ditty, really, very similar vein to something like Bit Bop, but again for me it just goes on a little bit too long, it's just a bit too repetitive, and yeah, it's just an average song for me, like not a particularly standout track there, so that one will get a 5 out of 10. Next one is another Red Rose Speedway outtake. It's a song called Tragedy, which was a cover song. This one originally written by Thomas Wayne, and like I said, intended for the double album version of Red Rose Speedway. I mean, it's a pleasant song. McCartney sings it really well. Nice backing harmonies, but it's not a song I particularly seek out. It's an okay track. It's just a bit puzzling. Yeah, like why he decided to cover this song like in like particular, but it's not bad though, so that one would get a 6 out of 10. Next track up is called Best Friend, which was a live recording this, I believe from Antwerp, and it was again another one originally intended for the double album version of Red Rose Speedway, and I must say it doesn't fit like on there because it's a live track and like the rest are studio songs, but I am surprised that Wings never attempted a kind of studio recording of this song, so I think it would have made a really good addition to the Red Rose Speedway album. The arrangement is kind of like a classic sort of like rock-based guitar riff, and I have read like sort of different interpretations about the lyrics. Some say that it's addressed to John Lennon, like sort of like he sings like why did you treat me so bad? Because you're the best friend that I ever had. So again, this is maybe sort of like McCartney trying to like extend like an olive branch like to John Lennon. He'd also wrote Dear Friend as well, like around this time, which was on the Wildlife album. So he was certainly trying to make amends like with like John Lennon like around this time. So it's certainly possible that this like could be about him. But yeah, it's still a really good song, a really rocking track, and I do like it a lot. So that one would get a 8 out of 10.
Same time next year.
Okay, now we're at the closing track, which is called Same Time Next Year, which was the first recording made with the final lineup of Wings. So this was kind of pre-Back to the Egg sessions, but post London Town. And it was intended to be the theme song for a film of the same name. However, it was ultimately rejected as this because too much of the plot was given away, like in McCartney's song. For me, it's not a standout track. It's a song which I do hear like batted about like as a real lost gem. It's like an amazing track, and that for me it's not quite that. It's just a generic piano ballad like what Paul has written so many of. But it's still okay. It would be commercially released this one as the B-side to the song "Put It There," one of the Flowers in the Dirt singles. So it has been released in that, but yeah, it's for me like not a real standout song. So yeah, same time next year, we'll get a 7 out of 10. Okay, so overall, this album would score 67%. So that is a okay score. I mean, it's certainly like I'm not going to try and compare this like to any other McCartney album because this is just a collection, like I said, like off cuts, like off outtakes and that. But it is, like as a result of that, it is a mixed bag though. I mean, you have got some great songs like which are real like hidden gems, like in his back catalogue, things like Cage, Did We Meet Somewhere Before, Best Friend, and Water Spout. But then also some not so good tracks, things like Robber's Ball, My Carnival, and Hey Diddle. It's definitely worth seeking out, like if like you haven't heard it, like if like you're not familiar like with like these songs, definitely something like quite a curious album, like with like the whole backstory of it. So yeah, before I go, just again want to thank like That Final Lads like for helping me put this video together. Like before like I sign off, like I will like include, like I said, like his thoughts like on the album as well. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Time next year.